New Zealand used to regard itself as one of the leading immunisers, if you like, of this world. We enjoyed the fact that our children were protected against a whole series of diseases um, that other nations suffered, and that New Zealand had a trust of its health officials and of government in general, it would have to be said. And as a consequence of that, yeah, New Zealand had one of the highest immunisation rates, particularly of children in the world. But that is dropping like a stone at the moment. And I have to say, the whooping cough vaccination rates, which is just something this third world, there have been hundreds of cases now, literally hundreds of cases, 263, I think, confirmed cases of whooping cough in the last month, which is just, I mean, for those of us who grew up at a certain generation, that's just sort of like, oh my God, it's like the Black Plague's come back. How can that be? The answer to that is because immunisation and vaccination rates are so low that these kind of epidemics, and I think in actual fact an epidemic was declared last week as a consequence of these whooping cough uh, infections. But of course, it's not just that, it's other infections that tend to make us look pretty third world as well. Joining us to talk about that, and somebody who's been at, of course, the heart of all this, is Dr. Helen Petousis-Harris. I'm sorry, Helen, I always do it. And she joins us now. Helen, how do I pronounce that middle word? Helen Petousis. Is that right?
You're pretty close. It's Potusis, yeah.
Petousis.
Yeah, not to be confused with Potusis, otherwise known as whooping cough.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go, you see.
Go.
Name like there's an old story about, the name you have, you go into that particular profession. There you go.
Yeah, it's like people and their pets, eh?
That's right. Yes, you always end up looking like them. You're absolutely right. All right, now, except what? Well, okay. What sort of pet have you got then? Don't tell me. Oh, you see. Well, there you go. Well, of course you have.
Crazy.
You see.
Tonkinny.
Oh, you see, Donald. Yeah, well, I think Donald Trump. No, it wasn't Donald Trump. Was it J.D. Vance? Except you're not single. All right, now, whooping cough.
No.
Whooping cough. It's unbelievable to me that in 2024 we've got hundreds of people young children being affected by whooping cough just in the last week, and I think an epidemic has been declared. Can I ask you why? I'm looking at the immunisation rates, and they have been dropping like a stone since. Well, they were going down sort of steadily in a sort of a linear way until 2020, but boy, they've dropped off a cliff since then. What's the problem?
Yeah, well, we chucked a match on the problem, I think. And of course, yeah, we can't blame COVID for all of it, but certainly we were already sliding. And then, as you were articulating before, what happened during the pandemic certainly had an additive effect. And now I think you're quite right. We've got two issues. One is the loss of trust and the loss of confidence and the impact of what has become an infodemic and a misinfodemic. And then the other side is the erosion of our services to the point where it's actually the hardest thing to do is to try and access a service and get a vaccine. So I think that's the problem that's going to result in the hospitalisations, because this disease actually is quite cyclic, no matter what you do. But because it's even if you get the infection, naturally you can have it 2 or 3 times across your lifetime. But what we can do is stop people actually getting really sick. And so if we're seeing hospitalisations, this is bad. This is really bad.
But I mean, so I get COVID. Okay, I understand COVID, that there was a resistance from it on the basis of this seemed to be relatively new and stuff like that. I got that. And I thought the measles, mumps and rubella stuff, that was a fringe group that were still, going around and saying, well, this is a problem. And I think had been widely discredited by everybody anyhow. Why now, though, since 2020, a simple stuff that is non-controversial, you would have thought, vaccination against whooping cough, for example. Why is there such a lack of trust in that?
No, I think multifactorial. One of the things is we keep getting new cohorts through. So people who, the last time we were having discussions about measles vaccines, we had a different group of people who were having kids. Now their kids are having kids and so forth. So you're sort of almost doomed to repeat it. And just to tap into the latest, cohort of parents, we've got, films being manufactured to revisit the same old myths. The myths haven't changed at all, but they just get rehashed. And of course, we've had this. Just as an example of the purchase of one social media platform, Twitter, that then became X, and the algorithms. It's phenomenal to watch how the information that is perhaps wrong in so many ways is what goes further and faster. So people just end up saturated in this stuff, and over time.
I've got to be honest with you. If I'm a parent with small children, the last place I'm going to go for health advice is Twitter.
Maybe you, but unfortunately, actually, a large portion of people do go to social media for that information.
Good God. Okay.
I know.
Well, in actual fact, that's another story. I'm just also looking at Maori children. This is even most amazing. In 2009. 77% of all Maori children were fully immunised. Okay? That rose to 92% in the mid-2010s. So that was
I know.
That was John Key and his lot. And now it's dropped in 2022 from 92% to 68%, just over 2/3. What is that about?
Again, the access to services. The services have been for a long time getting harder to get to. Even I know myself, trying to make an appointment at the GP can be really difficult, and I know people with young kids are struggling to get them in. So if that's a barrier for people who find it relatively easy to get to their GP or whatever.
During COVID, but wait on. During COVID, I was able to go when the immunisation was freely available to everywhere. I could go anywhere, not just my GP. I could go to the chemist, the pharmacist.
But you couldn't take your 6-week-old baby to the chemist, to the pharmacist or to the vaccine centres and get them immunised. You could go and get your COVID vaccine.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly the point that I'm making. Yeah.
And so we do have a workforce out there that have had some training now. There's been some moves made, but what I'm not seeing is actually having them be effective. Because, for example, having outreach services where actually you take the mountain to Muhammad, it can be really effective for getting the really hard to reach people. It's an effort, but it works, and we used to have some really good services in the past. But again, you've eroded the people who provide the service. There's less of them, and they're burned out. So that's a challenge. And then you've just got to.
Let me get this right. If I was a public health service, for example, to Whātau Ora or the New Zealand Health Service, one of the things that I'd be looking at instantly at that is going, listen, we're not doing very well with Maori kids, for example. Why don't we just head off to our local marae or, Maori Welfare Centre or something and set up something there? They must do that, don't they?